Best of r/malicious compliance episode 37. At work, we had an outgoing mailbox that handled postal mail as well as internal. You just dropped your envelope in there, the mailroom picked it up when they collected mail every afternoon, and everything was fine. Everyone did this. I used it for my Menards rebates. People used it for greeting cards, bills, anything you still needed to send by mail. My landlady, although very kind, is about 1,000 years old. Because of that, she doesn't have a website or even a PayPal account, and requires us to mail her a check for rent every month. Enter Busybody. Busybody apparently had too much time and too little sense, and liked to harass anyone she had authority over at any opportunity. One month she saw me drop my rent check in the outgoing mail bin, and was at my desk faster than I thought a 300-pound lady could even move. The rules say the mailbox is only for work-related mail. Why are you sending this letter to someone in next suburb over? Because I always do. Because I have for a year and a half now, and no one's said anything? Well, it's against the rules. No personal mail. Show me that rule. So she waddled me over to her desk, where she already had the internal company website pulled up to the page on the mailroom. Sure enough, no personal mail. Well, thank you for letting me know, Busybody. Could you send me the link to this page? Gladly. It was sitting in my inbox by the time I got back. Link to the web page. This constitutes a written warning and threat of a writ if I was caught breaking company policy again. It was obvious what I had to do. From then on, I watched that mailbox like a hawk. Anytime I saw a personal letter in there, I pulled it out and placed it on the sender's desk, along with a copy of Busybody's email, with her name and company email splashed across the header. In fact, I was so worried about this flagrant violation of the rules that after a couple of days I decided to start checking the mailboxes in other departments, and then on the other floors. I wouldn't want anyone else to make such an embarrassing mistake after all. About a week later, the company's website was updated to clarify that personal mail was allowed if under blah blah size and weight. No one said a word to me, but I'm told Busybody got a talking to. All I know is she gave me the stink eye every time she saw me until she transferred out of the department. Thank you. Next. So this was a few years ago, 2016 I believe, and happened in Miami. I had just finished my first summer working 40-60 hour weeks in 2 restaurants at a very popular tourist destination in the Northeast, so was super burnt out by the end of August. Since I was still doing my undergraduate degree, I wanted to take about a week or two in between finishing up my summer work and starting the new semester. My boyfriend and I thought it would be fun to go to Miami for a few days. I found a small 1-bedroom apartment on Airbnb that looked like it was a solid bet. We didn't need something insane but wanted to be comfortable. The total ended up being around $700 for 5 nights. Once we got there, the place is actually a studio, in a questionable apartment building with barely working and unstable doorknobs and locks. Okay fine, so there's that. But then in the room there is no screen on the broken window. It was one of those windows where there's glass panes like blinds that can fold up and down. But the thing was shattering in multiple places. But it's 2016, and everyone's freaking out about Zika virus, especially in Miami. I know it was probably done to make the trip to begin with, but when we booked the panic hadn't gotten to the levels they were at during that time. Plus I wasn't pregnant or planning on it. I still didn't want Zika though, and after paying about $700 I was expecting to at least have functioning doors/locks/windows. Not to mention how dirty the rest of the place was and how many hairs were all over the shower and sink. So I contact the host, who tells me the other guests had no problems. Use bug spray and you will be fine. Girl. After going back and forth a few times of me explaining why to take Zika seriously, that I do not feel comfortable sleeping exposed to all the mosquitoes in the hot zone the city had dubbed to be the most potential for infection, and asking if she could fix the window in any way, maybe come seal it or bring a screen. It's not my responsibility to repair this woman's Airbnb after all. I finally punted and asked for a refund since we would need to find another accommodation. Coming off a very long season of dealing with people's shit, I was over it. Well, Ms. Host tells me that I can't have a refund since she has that stated on her profile, regardless of the circumstances. I say no worries. Thanks for all your help. Reach out to Airbnb and they tell me they cannot refund my money because of the host's policy on their page, but they would give me a credit of my stay on my account to be used in the future. Okay, but not what I needed. I needed to go to a hotel now, which costs money. Reach out to my bank. Tell the sweet southern woman on the phone of my extremely dramatic Zika exposure whirlwind. Tell her that I am not staying at the Airbnb property and I will not pay the charges. And just like that, my account grew about $700 that day. We went up the coast a bit to outside of the Zika zone, got a great hotel, and had a good vacation. TL. Doctor, Airbnb host refused refund. I get the charge disputed by the bank and an extra Airbnb credited stay for free. Thank you. Next. Hey guys, me again. I live in a unit complex managed by a certain public strata corporation that cares very little about its tenants. A few years back we had some really old common area lighting that used fluorescent tubes that needed to be replaced frequently. Strata obviously got sick of replacing them all the time, and also they did a piss poor job of illuminating common areas, so they installed brand new LED lamps with built-in motion sensing dimmer switches. They'd go bright when they sense motion, and dim when idle. When installed, they were on 24 hours a day. Fast forward to about 9 months ago, we started having regular issues with the common area lighting. Usually they'd turn off for no reason and Strata would have to send a contractor out to fix them. This coincided with a nearby property development. Strata took advantage of this development by shifting the blame to the energy provider, who had supposedly flagged the light switch as being turned off as a safety risk to workers in the nearby development, but only our common area lights. Okay, that's not how electricity works, and they also started rewiring the lights to fully turn off during the day, from about 7 AM to about 8 PM. This was a problem, and I made sure to tell Strata this too. See, our building has a common garage area with carports that is completely undercover. It's literally built into the underside of our building. During broad daylight, if those lights are off, it's pitch black in the carports. A person could easily hide in the carports next to cars or even an empty carport and jump people as they pass by, which isn't totally out of the question for the area. Up until about 3 months ago, Strata would begrudgingly restore the original lighting settings for about a week or two before sending another contractor out to set them back to timed. However, when I called Strata this time they informed me that due to a new policy, the lights could not be restored to their former settings. I asked to speak to the supervisor of the person I was speaking to, and it went a little something like this. Supervisor, the lights cannot be on at day. Me, the lights have to be on at day. Otherwise you cannot see what you are doing in the stairwell, or in the garage area. We have elderly residents here, and people with mobility issues. Someone could easily fall and break something. Supervisor, that doesn't change anything. Until someone does break something, we cannot change the lighting settings. So naturally with this in mind, I devised some malicious, if not self-painful compliance. See, a few days prior to this call, Strata had sent me a letter demanding I dispose of a couch outside my door on the common area. I had plans to do it anyway, as it had only been there for 2 days and the lighting situation made it hazardous to do whenever I had some free time and an extra set of hands. But I decided to throw caution to the wind, because I was determined to get those lights fixed. With the aid of one of my neighbors, we began carefully moving this couch down 3 flights of stairs. As we get to the bottom, I trip and fall down half a flight of stairs, with a 3-seater couch following close behind me. Naturally this hurt a lot, and I ended up going to hospital for a couple of broken bones. Once I had a spare moment in the hospital, I called Strata to repeat my request. Naturally they jumped straight to we can't do anything until we've confirmed it's a safety hazard. They changed their tune really quick once they heard about my injuries. By the time I got out of hospital, the lights were reconfigured to be on 24 hours a day. I haven't had an issue yet. The pain was worth it to be honest. I'd rather take the injury than one of our elderly neighbors. Thank you. Next. Hey guys. Before I get started, let it be known that this is not my story but rather one our teacher told us during class. Also, sorry that it will be short and thin on details as he didn't talk about it much. TL. Doctor at bottom. Now, This whole conversation started because there is a Vermont bill that some senators want to pass that would cause it to be illegal for anyone under the age of 21 to use their phone. I know, it's stupid. After we talked about that, our teacher ended up talking about a rule from his old job. Basically, it was, if a student is caught using their phone, it must immediately be given to the principal so he can call the student's parents at the end of the day so they can come pick it up. Of course, nobody was really a fan of this rule, especially my teacher. At one point during one of his classes, the principal walked in on him and saw that he was letting students use their phones. This really pissed off the principal, which caused him to give a warning to my teacher, basically telling him that, if you don't start enforcing that rule every time you see a student with their phone out, you will be fired. Now, my teacher doesn't take kindly to threats of being fired for something he finds stupid. This is where the malicious compliance begins. The next day he made sure that every time he saw a student use their phone, he would take it and write a student report. However, he made sure that the rule was enforced, and because of that he ended up taking 45 phones a day. So, now he has 45 students' phones and 45 student reports, and as the rule states, all of these items must be given to the principal. And that's exactly what he did. He walked into the principal's office and dropped a box of phones and warnings on his desk and just simply told him to have fun making all the calls to return those phones. About a month after that, the rule for phones was removed. Again, sorry that there isn't an insane amount of detail as my teacher didn't dive too deep into it. But I still hope you enjoyed. TL. Doctor, school has teachers take kids' phones if they are caught using them and give them to the principal. My teacher doesn't like this and decided to turn in 45 phones to overwhelm the principal. Edit. Thank you for the grammatical corrections. Thank you. Next. This happened a few months ago on Black Friday. I work in a video game store and I wanted to buy a PlayStation VR bundle. I asked our new manager to put one aside for me because I start at 1 PM and the store opened at 8 AM. No big deal, we've done that for years. He then tells me he can't because if a customer sees on the website we have it in stock, he's forced to sell it even though the website takes 24 hours to update stock inventory and we put stuff aside for customers all the time. The next day I arrive at 1. I get my VR instantly and I see the manager put aside for him our only used Nintendo Switch along with 2 games. Later a customer comes to buy a Switch with those exact 2 games and he saw on the website that we had them in stock, so I had to sell it to him. Now the manager took one of the drawers for himself so he can reserve stuff freely. Thank you. Next. So this happened a few years ago when I was a senior in high school. My US government teacher used to ask for pocket constitutions for all her students from our state senator every year. We could use the constitution in class during quizzes and were encouraged to carry with us at all times, as she said you need to know your rights and have the constitution back you up. During our school year it went a bit different when she asked for the constitutions from the senator's office. Either the office staff changed or there was a new senator. I don't remember too well, but her request was rejected because office holders aren't allowed to give out gifts over a certain value, and giving out so many constitutions go above that value even though she's been doing it for years. Overall she asked for around 80 constitutions for all 3 of her classes combined. This is when the MC comes in. She made all her students email the office asking for a pocket constitution for their class. What followed were 80 individual emails being sent to the senator's office within a few hours. She got an email afterwards saying they got all the emails and will be sending her the constitution she requested, and next time email them herself with the number of constitutions she needs. Thank you. Next. So I work for a major UK bank, dealing with the giving of refunds for mis-sold payment protection insurance, PPI. Specifically, I'm on the team that deals with complex queries and unusual situations, as well as when the customer has further queries after we have sent our rejection or acceptance of their complaint. A few months ago, the part of our team that calls customers with issues that the normal call centers in India can't deal with was a bit short-handed, and as I'm one of the most senior team members, with knowledge of all the processes our team uses, I was asked to call customers to assist as I was having a slow day, and my productivity is high enough that I can afford to spend about 2 days a week doing other tasks if need be. Most of these consist of please explain why my redress payment isn't higher, please can you run me through how you calculated my refund, etc. with about 1 in 5 requiring specialist knowledge of a particular law or bank process. So, enter angry customer, henceforth known as Karen. Karen had been offered a hefty refund sum, around £3,000, well above the average, and we were currently in the process of paying it. Karen had rung up to demand why she wasn't receiving £7,000 plus, as that was what all the TV adverts said. Apparently we had deliberately lowered her payment because of reasons. She was kind of unclear. I explained to Karen that the TV adverts are misleading, and that your average complaint handler has no control over the amount of money each customer receives, as things such as date taken out, time PPI was active, etc. are all taken into account and fed through a calculation program, which gives us a figure. Apparently I was lying. Karen demanded that I withdraw her payment and give her a new more appropriate offer. I explained to the customer that we couldn't just withdraw an offer, and if she felt she was entitled to more redress, she could take it up with the financial ombudsman, who would review her case. Regardless of their decision, her payment would be going ahead. Karen wasn't having any of it, and demanded I look at her files and personally pay her a bigger sum. Rolling my eyes, I humored her and did a brief scan of her files. Oh ho, what's this? It looks like Karen was declared bankrupt about 15 years ago, and both the initial contact team and payments had missed it. To be fair, it was kind of well hidden and your average employee wouldn't recognize it. For those who don't know, being bankrupt affects you for the rest of your life, as even when you're discharged, you just go into a less bad bankruptcy. The only way out is to pay back every last penny. Anyway, for PPI, this means she is not entitled to any redress, and furthermore, isn't even allowed to make a complaint. Normally, procedure in this case is to inform the customer that you will arrange for a colleague to call them back in an hour or so, and then to consult with the insolvency team. The insolvency team will then call the customer back to explain the situation, how it relates to their specific insolvency, and the steps forward. In this case, her offer would be withdrawn, and she would be told her available options. However, I run the insolvency team, and all complex insolvency queries go through me. This means I am authorized to proceed with the call as is. Karen is in the middle of another rant while I'm looking into this and is again demanding that I withdraw her payment and send her a letter with the amount she deserves. As said before, normally I'd run the customer through the situation and explain what their options to claim the money were. For Karen though, I apologize to Karen, polite as can be, and tell her that yes, I will be withdrawing her payment and sending her a letter detailing her new redress. Karen huffs and complains it took me long enough, and then hangs up. I delete all of her redress off the system, close down the payment memo, and then send the most bare bones withdrawal of offer, due to bankruptcy, letter I can. Normally, I fill in a lot of extra details so the customer finds it easier to understand and understands everything. They are rarely happy, but they understand why we have to take that position. However, we don't actually have to do that as per the procedure. Off goes the letter, first class, as the customer did seem like she wanted her new amount quickly. I congratulate myself on doing exactly what the customer wanted. Karen wrote in a few weeks later whining, I ensure the item is routed to our team that reissues letters. This ensures that the exact same letter is sent out, along with a covering letter saying please find enclosed the requested information. After all, no point writing a new letter when I've already answered the query once. TLDR, we were about to pay customer £3,000 due to bank missing her bankruptcy. Customer demands higher payment, leading me to notice and withdraw everything. Edit. A bit of information for those in the comments who want to know why being bankrupt affects the refund. If the PPI was sold before the bankruptcy, 99% of cases, then it becomes an asset of the bankruptcy, which means anything that comes from it belongs to the official receiver, bankruptcy owner. This means that if we paid the customer, we'd basically be giving them someone else's money. If we did this knowingly, it can be classed as fraud. Additionally, both our legal team and the official receiver's office have confirmed that the customer isn't allowed to raise the complaint themselves, and that it has to come from them. I do sometimes feel bad for the customers, especially when they think that being discharged from a bankruptcy means it's all over, but there's literally nothing that we can do. For us to make payment to the customer, the bankruptcy would need to be annulled. This means that they've paid back every penny, and the customer is treated as if the bankruptcy never happened.